Right, so we shall be live. Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We have two very interesting set of people who are himself building the gaming applications and running the gaming companies. Of course, they are themselves gamers for sure. We'll get to know. We have Mr. Kripalu Mehta, who runs Parallax Labs, and Mr. Anshul Goel, who runs a very interesting set of terminology with AR, VR. So, quick introductions about you, Kripalu and Anshul.
Okay, so I'll start. So we are a company called Airborne Tech, and I'm Anshul. I'm the sole founder. And what we're trying to do is we are trying to create virtual environments, uh, in a sense that we are creating physical assets and physical entities into digital assets. And how do we do that? We use 3D models, 360-degree videos, and basically all the virtual assets that you can think of, and integrate them into kind of virtual tours or corporate trading modules, real estate tours, and also for entertainment industry. So that besides the VR headset that you have, a dedicated hardware for experiencing those virtual environments, we are trying to optimize them for also lower end devices such as your smartphones. Uh, yeah.
Hey guys,
All right,
uh,
thank you. Over to you, Kripalu.
good to be here. Thanks a lot, Aman, for inviting me for this panel discussion. It's pretty interesting to see how the gaming industry is going, and we get an opportunity to share what we've been doing as technologists and share our ideas and how we put it out in this company. So I run a company in Mumbai along with a partner. Um, It's called Parallax Labs, and we are doing end-to-end services in virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So mostly we work with industries, agencies in and around India, UK more, and we are also providing services to companies who require training and implements and solutions which are around virtual and augmented reality.
Yeah.
So that's a bit away from gaming, but the whole technology that goes into the gaming is what we
All right, interesting. Great. So at Z.Talks, we invite industry experts, entrepreneurs, influencers to talk about emerging technologies and how different industries can shape up. So certainly, Kripalu, when we talk about virtual reality, mixed reality, of course, these are bouncers for a layman like me. So how do you explain the students who are watching what does it mean by mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, and various kind of realities which are coming in the market?
Sure. I mean, the simplest way to understand virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality and the fundamental difference between them is that VR is, in general sense, these days after the advent of Oculus. Obviously, a lot of you guys have seen Oculus. Many of you might have tried it. So VR is basically, wearing a headset and jumping into an environment which is completely disconnected from the real one. You are transported into a different world. So that's what VR is. Augmented reality is something that we use almost every day with our smartphones. Simplest things like Snapchat filters or Instagram filters, or these days we've been having games like Pokemon Go. Everybody knows about it. So AR is pretty simple. So AR is probably more defined with what people have been doing with mobile augmented experiences. Mixed reality is somewhat like wearable augmented reality, but it's pretty sophisticated. And many people use mixed reality for different jobs. A lot of people use mixed reality as uh, having a chroma key background, and then you put it to a virtual world where you can see the background, which is the virtual environment, and the user as well. Combination of that is called mixed reality. But a lot of people in the industry know what the HoloLens or the Magic Leap is as mixed reality. So sophisticated VR and sophisticated augmented reality for wearable technology. That's what the basic difference is. But fundamentally, anything that pushes you to be inside a particular environment is an attempt to virtual reality.
All right, great. Thanks, Kripalu. So Anshul, if you look at games have come a long way since the Pong game, which has come first in the market, then consisting of single white pixel bouncing games across the screen. Then we have seen different arcade classic, nascent games which are coming in the industry. And right now we have PUBGs to different multiplayer games, and now Ludo King is definitely picking up the market because of COVID. What's the next gaming market looks like in India, and what kind of a next generation games we could see it from the old school games which possibly I used to play in school days, and now possibly our kids would be playing as a next gen games.
So one of the very interesting games that are going to come up is, and I'm also interested in personally, is Half-Life, Alex, and it's really quite popular in amongst the people who are, yeah, Kripalu must know. So it's a game. It could be a very flagship game in VR industry that could carry on the industry and show its real applications to its real efficiency that it hasn't been shown before. And where did it start? It really started from the presence of Pokemon Go, the real popular game in the first real popular game in augmented reality. And we have had many variations from that. We have had simple apps such as making your own drawings or leaving text boxes in real scenes in augmented reality, etc. Uh, so the gaming industry is bound to shift to adopt a great deal of virtual reality in its atmosphere. But the real challenge that exists right now is that VR headsets are expensive. As simple as that, right? There's a piece of a good quality VR headset costs about $400, and we need to so the future is that either the headsets will become less bulky and will be more inclined towards the economics of the current times and will get cheaper, or maybe the hardware that we have right now with us, and the single most hardware that everybody has is a smartphone, right? So supposedly Apple is coming in with, it has come up with LiDAR sensors in its new iPad editions. What it does is what it does is LiDAR does is it maps the meshes in the room. It maps any kind of 3D objects in the room, so that if you have a lens case like this, right? So either you could click a photo of it, or you could use a new iPhone and just scan the all the directions of it and you get a 3D model there and then. So this helps the gaming industry in a sense that we could very quickly make the 3D models, artificial 3D models, by just a single piece of hardware and integrate it into a game. So that is how the various bottlenecks that a gaming industry has right now in producing game in virtual industry will be quite eliminated by AR and VR, including with AI. Yeah.
All right. So Kripala, do you have a point to make on this? What will be the next gen games look like?
I think in general, when it comes to the next generation of gaming, and if we talk specifically about India, we've seen a very good trend um, in terms of PUBG. Okay, and now we really have to divide this whole period into post-COVID and pre-COVID era. So it's very fascinating that if a game like PUBG would have made its entrance during this time, it would have killed all the charts. It would have made revenue like nobody would have imagined PUBG or Fortnite. I still feel the next gen of gaming is going to be cloud gaming, or let's say remote rendering, when people are going to have devices with them, because India is a country where not many people are going to have very heavy, or let's say a very powerful piece of devices with a very powerful piece of hardware to play games. But with the advent of 5G, or coming in with companies like Geo, they'll always have options of playing good multiplayer games with really good graphics with remote rendering. So expect a game like PUBG to hit to hit the grounds with hyper realistic graphics, play to be able to play on really low capability phones.
All right, interesting. So, can consumers become a co-creators in the game? This question I wanted to open up for you both. As in, like if we look at PUBG, it started with life as Arma 2 mod, Daisy Battle Royale. League of Legends was heavily inspired by Warcraft 3. And user generated content can actually allow a game to scale quickly and cost effectiveness from both the organization point of view, and the infrastructure is definitely more towards the user centric. So do you think that the consumers can become a co-creator, like new tools which can empower players to create their own content in the form of mod maps, game nodes, or what you call items, or different other levels of players?
I think definitely. Why not? India. I mean, as a company, even for Parallax, it's always been this hard selling point that every time we go outside selling our virtual reality solutions, what we say is that if India is the software making hub of the world, then why can't India be the content creator of the world for virtual reality and augmented reality? India has a lot of scope when it comes to content creation, because we have really good creative people, and the audience here is students. A lot of them would be aspiring game developers, or let's say asset creators. So there is a lot of scope that we have. So we have a lot of supply thing which is going on in India. And when it comes to opening up games to co-creators or user creators, we've seen the trend. Mods have helped in AAA games, or in games like PUBG and Fortnite and things like that. That is always going to happen. I mean, I see a lot of inflow of content from India. That's what I feel in the next
Yeah,
five
I
years.
just have a point. Great. So I just have a point to make. If you look at Star Trek Enterprise, and this player has started recreating as a name of Minecraft, where he racked up to 13 million YouTube views when he created a player recreating the Star Trek. So definitely, Indians, half of the mobile phone users are using TikTok. If we can create a content over there, then why not towards the game? So Anshul, my question to you is, India, when we talk about gaming, it's a biggest notion that game of skill, the betting is legal. Game of chance, betting is illegal. If you and I are playing a chess, we can bet on each other. But if you and I are playing a game of dice, we cannot bet on each other. So what's this going around? MPL, Dream 11 don't really have mobile apps. You have to send them a message. They'll give you a special link. So why don't you share some kind of an experience and insights on this?
Um, I really don't have a real world personal experience on this, but yeah, but I can address you on a question that yes, Kripal. So I can address you on the previous question, that how as Indian creators we can help in. So can the users be co-creators as well, right? What we are seeing in the coming industry in the future, very near future, is that there are softwares coming up for that are really easy to be used by a user. So I recently chanced upon a new software from based on photogrammetry. So what is photogrammetry? It does the 3D modeling for you. So like I showed you before, you just have to give it some images, right? So right now, what traditionally happens is you have to have an expert 3D modeler for creating a 3D model of an object for your game, right? If you are a user, you cannot create a 3D model for your game there and then. But there exists some softwares like MeshLab, supposedly, and you just have to click the pictures and it creates 3D model out of it, and also the techniques of photogrammetry. So just like you said, we are on TikTok, right? A lot of us people are on TikTok. But if we just explore a little, we just head into that direction, we'll find out that it's not that difficult, because the technology is enabling it for us. We don't have to really build up our skills over years to get into this industry. So we can certainly make a change even as users.
Great. So you still haven't really answered my game of skill question. Kripalu, do you have any insight on that?
That was a nice escape by Anshul. Uh, well, I remember, having my teams on fantasy T20 and stuff like that, IPL T20 and fantasy leagues. But it's all about norms. I think I think my personal opinion is that if we are allowed to bet on a on something like bitcoins, I think that should, for that, of course, cryptocurrency has to be legal, and then we go on to have some kind of transaction in between the users when they are actually watching a live match or actually watching a live game, and let's say uh, you know dice or poker or things like that. So the thing is that uh, we really do have that option of doing that, because we have that kind of market which is craving for it, and which can generate huge economical benefits. Then the government should uplift the norms. I mean,
No,
it's
absolutely. I met a person in a flight. He said we still play game of chance on Telegram. I was really impressed that okay, the government is not allowing you to place a bet on the app. You do it through Paytm, UPI on a Telegram. You deposit the money there. Whoever is the winner gets the money back as a refund, and the player, which we call it as somebody who is initiating it, is a platform fees. He's taking 10%. Of course, things are happening. So you talked about cryptocurrency. I'll touch down upon that, Kripalu.
yeah.
Yes, go
So
ahead.
there's
Sorry, you were saying.
one experience that I've had. There's an app on, I wouldn't say which app because that's misleading, but there's an app on App Store and Play Store both, which gives you updates and the odds for for your betting purposes while a live cricket match is going, and the update is so quick that it's even faster than radio. I consider radio as the fastest means of communication when it comes to a cricket match. But if that if that if that is legal, if IPL T20 is legal, if fantasy league is legal, then why are we just waiting for that little margin?
No, absolutely. That's a collective question we all three need to ask the regulators and policy makers what we are missing at. Are we missing at the KYC level? Anshul, 46,000 game developers jobs are required in India.
Yes.
Average package goes between 80 to 8 to 40 lakhs, somewhere between as a range. What are the skill sets? And with pandemic, of course, we are looking at the after COVID world, and of course the gaming developers job will increase as well. And this is, I'm talking 46,000, possibly a month back statistics. It could have been now
Yes.
80,000 or 100,000. And in the world collectively, if you look at, there are about, in India itself, you have about 350 million gaming users. So what are the skills uh, required to become a game developer, and what does the learning curve should look like?
Okay. So I'll tell you the answer through my own journey, right? So I'm the main developer in the company, and I've coded everything myself. So the software that I've developed it is Unity 3D. So there are some technicalities involved to it. So how did I get here? Uh, I had an idea of a Doraemon door, right? I used to watch that cartoon, and I imagined, could I replicate that in augmented reality, right? Could I walk through a door and enter a new world? As simple as that. So how my journey started is typing on Google how to make a Doraemon door, and it led me to many YouTube videos and Google blogs that told me that the most development that is done in virtual reality is in Unity, Unreal Engine, and then there's also some softwares coming up like Vue AR that are kind of already a template for you to develop on. So our team develops on Unity, and because it includes a very robust language in C sharp, right? There's a language called C sharp that you have to learn to program, and you don't really have to, go through entire courses on the language or etc. You just get an overview from the millions of good million videos of YouTube that you have, and just get an idea of it, and pick up a mini project, and start developing on it, hacking the way through, right? Kripalu would agree on that. That you just have to create a working model in the first go, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to be persistent about it. You'll get a lot of bugs in coding, you get a lot of errors, right? And you're new to this, obviously, but be persistent, and eventually you'll get there, and then go your way back and learn more and make it efficient. But the way to go is just hack it through. And the main languages that you need to learn are C sharp and maybe a bit of JavaScript. And personally, I prefer Unity 3D. And adding on to your stat, actually, about the jobs, there's also another good news for the game developers is that in the last month, there has been a spike of a sale of VR headsets 2.5 times in foreign and in India collectively.
Great. So Kripalu, do you have a point to make on this?
Yeah, actually, what I feel is, when it comes to softwares, uh, game development is what I've seen as the most multidisciplinary job. Anybody who is interested in game development and has a different background can get into it, because if you're a coder, you can definitely get into coding, because gaming is a lot about coding. If you are a creative person, you can get into asset creation, level design, storyboarding, and creative storyboarding. Even if you are a mechanical engineer, even if you are a physics lover. Yeah, so Anshul is a mechanical engineer. You have some kind of a background that comes with you. My partner Vivek is a mechanical engineer. So he does a lot of software in virtual reality applications. So it's a very multidisciplinary field where you can get in. And for a developer, it's very important to understand the game development pipeline and really identify which part the person can make the most impact. So I think the skill set is what Anshul has already spoken about. Unity 3D, Unreal Engine, a lot of web platforms. Even if you want to be a web developer turned into a game developer, you've got Babylon JS, 3JS. Now we've got cloud rendering games. So a lot of things are going to be on web. If you want to be VR AR, there's Spark AR. There's for Apple guys. There's Reality Composer, a lot of stuff. I mean, I think game development is the most open field. Like we open our arms like so wide.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very relevant point. That of course it's an open field, and I believe that there is a lot of combination of design thinking, psychology, human behavior also goes into that while creating a game. It's not just a technology, because you need to understand your user behavior and what kind of a segment you are launching in. I have been reading about this, Kripalu, and we all have read this quote: "Learn by doing." Right? So, of course, why can't we learn by playing? So, if you're playing a PUBG, why can't you learn some physics principles in that? If you're playing some other game of car racing, why can't you learn aerodynamics in that? So, we should have this gamified kind of an ecosystem where you are playing, and it could be a third year student, it could be a 6 7 year old person as well, because we should not be limited to a ladder that you have cleared 9 10 10, then you should read and learn about the 11 subjects. Then you have a PCM getting continued in the college as well. So, what do you think about this? That we can have a gamified ecosystem where we can learn by playing.
Gamification is probably the most talked about word when we go and pitch our ideas and concepts to our customers. What happens is every time, every industrial training or anything that we pitch, when it comes to 3D environment, we just don't want the person to get inside the 3D environment and just wander around. We want the person to learn while he's playing a game. That's so basically gamification. What I see as a very big potential here is that uh, gaming is going to come into the living rooms of people all around the world. It has already started. You can look at Stadia, you can look at Apple Arcade, and with the acquisition of Twitch by Amazon, every company is trying to put the game into the living room. Like they're trying to make an ecosystem right from the iPad to the iPhone to the Apple TV. Everything is connected, and you can play games. So what happens is we want students when they are at home. Let's take an example. Let's say we don't want a lot of technology going in place when you are at the school, because we really have to keep that social factor in place, so that the point of going to school is still maintained. But when they come back, they can do homeworks in augmented reality. Let's say there's a solar system that's spread across the home, and you really need to walk up to that planet and find it out. So homeworks in augmented reality, or let's say so that's gamification. You find one planet, you get some points. Let's imagine Pokemon Go as a lesson of physics or chemistry, or you go close to a water, a pond. You get to know about the elements of water and the chemicals inside. Let's say you go close to a forest, you get to know about the forest. So imagine, and you're forced to go because you get some incentives over there. So gamification in this sense, I mean, if you think, the options are innumerable, and everything
Absolutely, it's a wide spectrum.
should be gamified. Everything should be gamified. In short.
Great. Thanks, Kripalu. So you mentioned that gaming is coming from the ecosystems to the living room. Anshul, we are going, we are facing this pandemic. Can a game be developed or designed which can identify the COVID positive patient while playing a game, and then you can have certain kind of an elements, or because that lot of physical users are becoming a digital users now, right? So do you think that any kind of a gamified ecosystem which can be there where we can identify COVID positive patients around us?
So, so there was a very interesting research paper just released, right? So what it does is it really does something out of the ordinary. It is trying to build a data set of the sound effects that the people make who are affected by COVID. So you'll have some kind of harshness in your voice, right, from your normal voice when you speak, when you have a COVID. So COVID basically blocks your throat and your lungs, and it builds up inside your lungs. So what they're doing, the researchers, is building up a data set against the ordinary voice of people against the COVID affected voice of the same people, and it's getting a lot of accuracy in detecting the people from the voice. So even if you have supposedly a game such as PUBG, and where you need or any game where you need a sound input from the user, right? You could convert that input into and pass it through that model, through a trained model, which is not really very efficient right now. And this could be used to really detect whether the player or the user is has a good probability of having COVID. Besides that, if we go into educating people about COVID or social distancing, and maintaining hygiene, that could really be done, and that is really needed, not only in your living room but also in corporate, because you cannot escape the reality that the training right now, that the traditional training right now that is done in corporate is in batches, right? If you want to learn about a lathe machine, there's a session where 100 people go, and there's a trainer, person trainer, and he teaches you on how does the machine work. But that has to be avoided right now. There's no other alternative to it. That is why where the gamified experiences come in picture, as Kripal mentioned. And so, besides detecting the possibility of a COVID patient through gamified experience or educating them, there's also, it is going to become a necessity if it doesn't subside.
I'd like to add
All
one
right,
thing.
great. Yes, please.
Imagine, Arogya Setu as a gamified application. Let's say the number of hours you spend at home, is going to give you more points. And once you venture out, it starts reducing the points. And at the end of lockdown number one, you can redeem your points online and get some reward. Let's say 100 rupee recharge or something. So even this is a kind of gamification which is going to let people stay inside the house. And imagine the simplicity of implementing this inside an existing application which is already there with millions.
Great. So from time spending time on the screens of the mobile phone, spend time at home. Your levels can be unlocked, and then you can redeem those points during this pandemic. So there's a fundamental question which is coming in my mind: is there is, of course, gaming is the largest segment of entertainment industry, and it's a demanding career in today's modern world. So there are various career options for aspirants like artists, musicians, to sound engineers, to programmers in this field. We've talked about programmers, but what about the artists, musicians? What about the what you call the other components which can act as a complement to the gaming industry in terms of a modern career?
I mean, for even for sound engineers, even for like you said, user experience designers, people who study psychology, it's the scope is huge. And I would share one experience of mine with one of the interns initially we had. So this guy was interested in doing human computer interaction as his master's study. It's a field where you study about user experience, designing user experiences. But whole 3 years of his background was spent in designing EDM music. So his passion was music, but he still wanted to user experience. So he caught up in he landed up at a course in Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center. This is something that a lot of students should look at. there have been institutes in universities which are focused towards entertainment technology, which is necessarily towards these technologies what we're talking about and gaming. He landed up at that course, and all of his career is now towards designing music in games, designing sound, designing the importance of having ambisonic experiences in virtual reality. So this is what he's doing, and he's working really well at Magic Leap. He's not one of those who has been laid off by Magic Leap, fortunately.
All right, Anshul, do you have to add on this?
Yeah. So we'll talk about the future, right? So currently, what is being done is obviously there's traditional music being played and there's traditional 3D modeling being done manually, right? But what is going to happen in the near future, and it's happening right now also in in the foreign countries such as Europe and US, is that they are making artificially based generation of data. So even if you tell me about music, right? Even if you tell me about sound effects, there's an very recent jukebox by OpenAI. What it does is you give it the parameters that you want rock music, and you want to have a loud voice in it or something, and you want it to be played by Michael Jackson or something, right? Give it some parameters, and it'll create on the go some sound clips for you to use in your game. So so there's no need for any copyright. There's no issues of copyright. It's fast. It's accurate, not accurate right now because it's not very efficient right now, but it's going to be. So it's quite quick to generate the data that you want, and same with the images, right? If you want some characters in your game, so what happens now is you have to rely on an expert, on 3D model expert, or suppose you want to superimpose the name of a politician in your game, right? So you could create an artificial politician by deepfakes now, and you could use that in your game. People are using it, so that the bottlenecks in the industry are just eliminated like that by AI. So if you talk about the future, right? So the designers, the UX, UI designers and artists will have to, show their skill, complement their skills in understanding of music or UX, UI designing with development also in the future, because that is how they will create the most value in the most efficient way. That is a subjective opinion, but yeah, I believe that.
All right. So, last question before I open up for the audience. Which is your favorite game and how often you play that? Any one of you?
God of War. God of War is
Okay,
amazing.
great.
I,
How
I
about Kripalu?
I'm a different kind of gamer. I have not played Call of Duty. I have not played God of War. Not even Dota or Counter Strike. I love playing Rockstar games. So my personal favorite is still GTA Vice City.
All right,
Yes.
great. So, high five on that. I have played it possibly n number of times with or without cheat codes. That's a more fun. So, I was expecting an answer on GTA Vice City kind of an ecosystem for COVID. One last question now before I open up is I wanted to start my journey in game development. Any specific resources, or should I start with Google straight away?
You can start with
Google.
Google. I mean, like Anshul said, Unity is open. It's very friendly. I would recommend start with Unity because it's not Unreal.
Take an overview of the thing and Google the heck out of it.
Yeah.
You'll get some codes, combine them, let's see if it works, and then finish off your project. This is how you learn.
Great. All right. So I'll open up for the audience. We have a question from Santana. Are there any open source softwares for augmented reality apps development? Any one of you can answer
Uh,
that.
Unity is open source, and I have a good news for you. The thing that we talked about, physics simulation, right? That why not teach yourself about physics? Unity also handles all the physics that you want. So
All
Unity
right.
is open source, and it handles all your physics and handles all your animation. So you're good to go from the get go. Yeah.
All right.
There,
Do you have anything to add, Krupal?
there are other platforms as well. When it comes to open source AI development, so AI Foundation's native plugin is open source. So if you really want to work with native applications on Android and iOS, you can go with AI Foundation as well. So yeah.
All right. The other question, by the same person is there any opportunity for developers using Rust programming language in gaming industry?
Rust, I haven't used it, and majorly what I've seen is JavaScript and C Sharp and a bit of Python, but I haven't seen people using Rust. Maybe it could be. I haven't seen.
Yeah, to this I would like to answer it quite differently, because programming languages has never been in my sight a problem for game development. If you're not comfortable with C sharp, you might, if you might be knowing Java. So the whole point is understanding how object oriented programming works. If you really want to work with C sharp, is important. If you work with Java or C, you might be well versed with C sharp. Otherwise, Unreal comes with visual programming, so programming language is not a concern.
All right. So the question is, Unity 3D is free and you can use AR Foundation to kickstart. I think that's an answer to the previous one. How long does it take to be a pretty good developer in Unity? I think that's subjective to your learning, but any one of you wanted to answer that?
Define pretty good. I mean, yeah. So, so I believe, I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not being humble. I believe that I would have a lot of learning to do, and you always have a lot of learning to do, because things are coming up at a constant pace, right? So he mentioned the Air Foundation library. So Air Foundation library has just integrated lidar into it. So go learn that now. So you're not a good developer ever. Just be an optimum developer to develop what you have the vision of, and that is enough. And keep improving on the product. That is the best thing.
All right. So Anshul has mentioned, no, sorry, the other Kripalu has mentioned cryptocurrency and a combination with gaming industry. How would it work, and where can we expect the applications coming in with the cryptocurrency as a foundation?
Wow, I mean, let's imagine virtual worlds and virtual currencies. So it always goes hand in hand. And what happens is, when eventually, like, when you have hardcore gamers, like, not hardcore gamers, but hardcore lovers of immersive worlds, you'll always have people like us telling you that, let's build parallel universes. Like, if you've seen Ready Player One, I'm sure Anshul, have you seen it? So Ready Player One is, yeah,
Yes,
it
amazing.
is where you have Oasis. It's a parallel universe. A very small part of it is being done by Facebook's Horizon. So I think the best application of cryptocurrency in gaming would be when you actually deal in with people inside the virtual world. It's, let's say you build an open world inside, which is a parallel universe. Cryptocurrency would be used there a lot. I mean, that's the way exchanges would happen in the future. That is number one. Otherwise, I think, as of now, uh, the best way to use cryptocurrencies is probably in-app purchases, because you play games on a global platform. You need a global currency for that. So why not in-app purchases, and why not incentives when you're winning games? And third, what I see is gaming hackathons, or let's say when you have gaming competitions, um, and you're an all-time player of a particular game. Let's say, let's consider Skyrim, and there's a competition, there's a worldwide competition on Skyrim, and you win that competition, and you get some certain kind of cryptocurrency that could be stored inside the game, and you could use it up inside the game to up your levels, or up your resources. So those are three things, I think, where it could be usable.
No, absolutely. I agree. I'm one of the early adopters of cryptocurrency. So maybe we'll talk on that, how maybe cryptocurrencies can become a
Would you?
complement to the gaming industries. So great. We have another question is, uh, can you tell something about HTML5 gaming, and is it a good alternative to Flash?
Right. I mean, Flash is not even an alternative now, so it's not even an option. I would recommend Alan, look at if you really want to build web games, look at 3JS. It's an independent platform. It's open source. Look at Babylon JS, um, um, and look at A-Frame. You have a lot of options for building web games. I see there's a limit to HTML5s. This thing, but you could really build good games on web, like on 3JS. But you could also go with Unity's web plugin. So even that's good if you really want to start with HTML. Um, Unity supports HTML. There have
All
been
right. I
issues.
think yes.
There have,
Sorry.
there have been issues with Unity and HTML, but they've been recently solved. Or they're still working on
All right. So
I
I
think
think somebody. Yes, please. Sorry.
another good software is Vue AR. So it's not really. It could be used for games, but Vue AR is used for creating a virtual tour for your room, supposedly. So it's quite a good template that you can work on very easily. Not really much there to code, and it's open
Great.
source.
So I think we have very interesting people joining in. They have started answering each of these questions. So great, Alan. Thanks, Mohan. I would take a last question before we conclude. Puneet is asking, is it mandatory to learn C# or JavaScript is enough for developing games?
I think JavaScript is good enough.
All right,
there's
great. So yes, please.
I think there's nothing mandatory. So you just start. I don't think C sharp even should be an issue. Like you just have to get some basics of it. If you do it,
All right. Okay, so one last question from my side is, do we have a community or a club that can foster gamers and provides an opportunity to hang out, play games, meet, network, learn, and whether, I mean, you can become a co-creator as well.
Indie hackers.
All right. How about you, Kripalu? Do you
there
have
are
anything to add?
actually gamescom communities there. There's so depending on which city you are in, we do have local WhatsApp groups for Unity developers. So I am a part of Mumbai's Unity developers group, and you and if you log on to there every year we used to have this event hosted by NASCOM along with India Games, where people would gather. So there are physical events also happening, but not so soon. But you really have these community gatherings and meetups, or online meetups. If you Google, you will find them, and WhatsApp groups are also there.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining in. It has been a wonderful discussion, personally for myself as well. Got to learn new things, and of course, togetherness during this pandemic time should be about the family, you, and of course, the right games you play and learn the new skills to develop new games and become a game developer, because there is a dire need of a game developers in India. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in. Have a lovely day
And
ahead, and it has been a pleasure to host you both.
thank you so much, Aman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Great session, man.
Yeah.
Bye. See you soon then.